In a continent still wrestling with the ghosts of colonization, economic dependency, and foreign military presence, a young military captain in Burkina Faso has captured the imagination of Africa's most politically conscious generation, Gen Z. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the 36-year-old transitional president of Burkina Faso, is increasingly being hailed by many young Africans as the ideological heir to Thomas Sankara, the revolutionary icon who ruled the same country in the 1980s and remains a symbol of African self-determination. For millions of African youth, particularly those born after 1997 and now active online, Traoré is not just a leader. He is a signal of change. TikTok videos with millions of views portray him walking among soldiers, confronting Western journalists, and boldly declaring Africa's right to control its own resources. On Twitter, now X, Instagram, and Telegram, he's been turned into memes, quoted like a philosopher, and worshipped like a cultural hero. So what is it about Traoré that resonates so strongly with Gen Z across Africa and the diaspora? 1. Revolutionary aesthetic and authenticity. Thomas Sankara was known not just for his radical policies, but also for his simple lifestyle and revolutionary charisma. He refused to live in presidential palaces, rode bicycles, and denounced foreign aid as a tool of recolonization. Today, Ibrahim Traoré evokes that same energy. He wears military fatigues, refuses luxury convoys, and appears with ordinary soldiers on the front lines of Burkina Faso's fight against extremist insurgents. In an age where Gen Z is hypersensitive to authenticity, rejecting the polished image of traditional politicians, Traoré's unfiltered style stands out. We're tired of presidents in suits talking about democracy while selling our minerals, said Ndidi Agbana, a 21-year-old political science student in Nigeria. Traoré feels real. Like he's not pretending. He's doing what Sankara would do if he were still alive. Traoré's rejection of elite privilege mirrors Gen Z's broader disillusionment with capitalist excess and performative governance. He doesn't just talk about change. He lives it visibly. In an age driven by optics and social media, that matters. 2. Anti-imperialist rhetoric that speaks to today's youth. Thomas Sankara openly challenged the French, American, and IMF-driven systems that he believed kept Africa underdeveloped. Traoré has revived that same rhetoric with a modern twist. He's not just questioning France's military presence or foreign mining contracts. He's doing something about them. Under his leadership, French troops have been expelled from Burkina Faso, military bases reoccupied by Burkinabe forces, and new resource deals negotiated outside Western frameworks. Gen Z, shaped by years of Pan-African discourse on platforms like YouTube, Instagram Reels, and WhatsApp groups, is more politically engaged than many older generations. Many of them are digital natives who have grown up watching their country's leaders compromise sovereignty in exchange for foreign loans and military support. Traoré's bold rejection of neo-colonial ties speaks directly to their frustrations. This is a generation raised on Sankara clips and Malcolm X quotes, explains Fatou Bamba, a Ghanaian youth organizer. So when Traoré says Africa must stand up, we hear Sankara echoing through him. It's like our generation finally has its own revolutionary. 3. Pan-African messaging in a connected age. Traoré has made no secret of his support for Pan-African solidarity. Whether it's standing with Mali and Niger after their military takeovers, proposing alternative regional alliances outside of ECOWAS, or calling out the African Union for hypocrisy, his language resonates with a generation that sees Africa not as isolated nations, but as one digitally connected identity. Many Gen Z Africans refer to themselves as Afropolitans, rooted in their home countries but engaged in cross-border culture, struggles, and ideas. Traoré's emphasis on continental unity and mutual support among African nations fits neatly into this identity. His resistance is not just for Burkina Faso. It's seen as resistance for all Africans. We see him as a leader of Africa, not just Burkina Faso, said Joseph Mwangi, a 24-year-old Kenyan podcaster. He's standing up to Western control the way all our presidents should. That's why young people across the continent support him. He represents a collective dream. 4. Critique of Western hypocrisy. A defining feature of Gen Z's political consciousness is its awareness of global hypocrisy, especially from Western powers who preach democracy but support dictators, who promote free markets while hoarding Africa's resources, and who claim to defend human rights while backing corrupt regimes. Traoré's public critiques of this hypocrisy, particularly his viral moment where he asked why the West is silent when African leaders rob their own people with foreign backing, resonated deeply. When he calls out puppet governments and double standards, it's not just political talk, says Maya Belay, an Ethiopian TikTok influencer based in Canada. It's what we've been saying for years, but he's saying it from the presidential seat, and that makes it powerful. In an era of Black Lives Matter, decolonization movements, and youth-led protests across Africa, Traoré's unapologetic truth-telling aligns with Gen Z's demand for justice and equity, not just within Africa, but in the global order. 5. Action over talk. Perhaps the most Sankara-like quality in Traoré's leadership is his emphasis on immediate, visible action. He has nationalized mines, redistributed military command to local officers, and demanded accountability from elites. In an age where Gen Z is increasingly cynical about performative politics, Traoré's practical approach, even when controversial, sets him apart. While some older Africans fear the consequences of radical reform, many younger citizens see it as necessary. Traoré is not perfect, and his critics point to press restrictions and a lack of democratic roadmap. But Gen Z often views revolution not through the lens of Western liberalism, but through the lens of dignity, control over resources, and empowerment of ordinary people. 6. The search for new African heroes. Gen Z is a generation searching for heroes that look like them and speak their truth. For too long, African youth have grown up under leaders who cling to power, bow to Western interests, and offer little in the way of inspiration or courage. Traoré, young, defiant, and fiercely independent, fills that vacuum. He's not just the president of Burkina Faso. He's become a symbol of a wider continental awakening. To many, he's the proof that courage, integrity, and youth can still coexist in African leadership. Our parents told us about Sankara. Now we're living through Traoré, says Zainab Silla, a 20-year-old activist in the Gambia. It feels like history is giving us a second chance. Traoré has stepped into a symbolic role, not of his own making, but shaped by a generation longing for purpose, truth, and sovereignty. Whether he ultimately succeeds or fails, his rise is evidence that Africa's youth are no longer content with recycled promises and borrowed solutions. They want boldness. They want dignity. And in Captain Ibrahim Traoré, many believe they have finally found a leader who dares to deliver it. Sankara inspired our dreams, one Gen Z protester wrote on a placard in Bamako. Traoré is helping us live